Hello, Galaxy! I'm Chris Pirillo, and you've tuned into another live edition of the Locker Gnome Daily Report. I'm talking to you, live and in real time, with my members! You can call them patrons, I suppose, if you want. But membership is now an option in my channel. You click the join button on one of my video pages or channel page, and you can become a member. You get bonuses like being able to use my face as an emoji in chat. You get a chance of chatting during a live broadcast, as well as being in the live broadcast. What is it? $4.99 a month. By the way, Google keeps 30% of that. Not that I mind. I needed this option 7 years ago. I've always wanted to do something like this. And now that there's no friction for you, if I'm worth the price of one cup of coffee, once a month, that's what it is. More than anything, here's the thing. If you're going to plunk down $1,000 on a cutting edge device and you still want my advice in relation to technology, consider becoming a member. Sign up. It's not just a subscriber. It's like, something beyond that. So last year, moving on to the topic at hand, finally, I know, it's about time. I talked extensively about how I thought Apple was jumping the shark. I still believe what it is that I said rings true today. And if you go back, and I know very few of you likely will, if you remember, and very few of you seem to remember based on a lot of unmoderated comments that I've seen and some comments I've seen in social, suggesting that I feel differently about Google's approach to the notch compared to Apple's approach to the notch. Well, yeah, I do, and I need to explain it, but it's not for the reasons you think. If you go back, please do, please. Go back and watch those videos when I was talking about it. I said, and my big concern wasn't that Apple was, putting the sensor array where they were placing it. It's that the elements that flanked the notch seemed cramped. And it wouldn't bother me if they mitigated it in software. Okay, I shouldn't scream because I'm not sure if my mic can take it. I'm not sure if you can take it. I'm a software guy. I know all you seem to want to talk about is hardware. I don't. That's never going to change. It's not the hardware that made the first iPhone win. It was the software. Because if you remember, you want to rewind the clock, go ahead, do your research. The software was stellar. The hardware worked. But it was the software experience that was completely beyond the competition. There was no competition for years. It was the software that won people over because the hardware was lackluster at best. And that's what all the nerds argued about. Well, the specs are inferior. They didn't have all the fancy technologies in hardware, but the software was stellar. The iPhone won because of solid software. So your revisionist history ain't gonna fly with me. Moreover, when you start questioning me and my position in the matter, I haven't changed. I think, and this was also a tweet that I made in response to somebody else, the notch, the idea of this notch thing is a flash in the pan. It serves no use whatsoever. And I will be proven right. Years from now, I couldn't tell you how many years into the future, years from now, notches will cease to exist. We won't need them anymore. The cameras and the apparatus will blend behind the screen. They'll figure it out. Someone will figure it out, guarantee. And the notch will cease to exist, which tells you everything you need to know. It doesn't need to exist today. It serves no useful purpose in software. My contention with the notch last year, the notch, right? And we're not talking about the, the Essential Phone notch, which kind of pre-notched the notch that Apple released. My issue was that they didn't mitigate it in software. I said I wouldn't mind. I know. I said, you know what? It may work well, that part, if they mitigate it fully in software or in software. That was my position then. That remains my position. So now, why would I say that the Google notch, if we can call it that, they don't want to call it a notch. No one seems to want, this is a very community-driven thing. And by the way, I don't think most users care about the notch. I really don't. Most users don't care about, amazing design either. I do. I'm a software guy. I want my software to run well, look nice, and just be a fantastic experience, right? All together. But it's the software that drives everything forward. So why am I not bothered with the Google Notch? A couple of reasons. One, and this is something, again, in stark contrast to what Apple did last year. Apple had their iPhone 10, which I thought was just ridiculous. It seemed too cramped. The top, specifically the items that flanked the notch. Something that I should tell you, I believe I've mentioned. I don't know if I've said it or where I've said it, but I know I've made mention of it somewhere. The iPhone XS Max doesn't bother me as much because the padding of the elements, it seems that there's a lot more breathing room around the clock and the status icons on the iPhone XS Max because the screen is larger, right? So there's more room to breathe. It seems less cramped. So anyway, that said, Apple never did anything to effectively mitigate the nightmare in software at all. They said embrace the notch. So the alternative to a new iPhone last year was an iPhone 8 Plus in terms of, not necessarily just specifications, but usability and screen size, etc. Something that you might be accustomed to in terms of a flagship. But the iPhone 8 Plus was quickly sidelined when the iPhone 10 was released. So you had a choice between, two very dissimilar devices. You've got like the iPhone of yesteryear, as it were, and what Apple believes is the future of the iPhone, starting with the iPhone 10, and they were really dramatically different phones. I mean, dramatically different screens, dramatically different usability paradigms. They were just different. So there really was very little choice, and you knew Apple was just going to abandon where it had been, and they're going to move forward with what they have. And I can't fault them for that, but I'm not buying into this trend, this gimmick. And I know you can try to out-logic me and say, well, there's a reason that the notch exists. Okay, you keep telling yourself that. I don't like the notch, period, on any device. Don't want it. Don't care for it. Don't want it. So why then, two reasons, why is it a non-issue for me with Google? And mind you, I don't know if I'm even going to be able to get a Pixel 3 or a 3 XL. Mind you, keep that in mind. I don't know if it's going to happen. Don't have enough members. So, the one of the bigger reasons why it doesn't bother me is that Google gave two viable options for its flagships. Two very viable options. Last year, you might remember, the Pixel 2 and the Pixel 2 XL were similar devices by name, but by and large, different devices. Different screens, I believe even created by different manufacturers. They were just different. This year, they're kind of the same. You've got a slightly larger one and a slightly smaller one. That's really the primary difference between the two. The larger one, yes, happens to have a notch, but the smaller one that has a larger resolution than the Pixel 2, so the Pixel 3 has got a taller screen, bringing it closer to a Pixel 2 XL type of experience minus the notch. It's viable. It's the same hardware, effectively the same hardware. Same screen, different resolution, minor differences, of course, in size, but it doesn't feel like such a dramatic choice between the two. I would have no problem whatsoever going from a Pixel 2 XL to a Pixel 3. I don't feel I would be missing out on anything. Yeah, maybe I'd have a few more elements on the screen and a higher PPI, like I could tell you how that translates. But I'm not sure if, in terms of general usability and enjoyability of a device, that's a dramatic impact. I don't feel like Google is forcing you to make that decision. They really have a viable option, and I'm not the only person to say that. So if you don't like the idea of a notch, you don't need to get it and still have a premium type of experience in the Pixel 3. That's from everything that I've seen. At a distance, not up close and personal. I don't have one. I'm not in a reviewer program or anything like that. So, That to me is the first thing that I have to explain. Apple didn't give you that choice. If you wanted the new type of phone. Google did virtually the same thing last year, at least in software, with the Pixel 2s. The Pixel 3 and the Pixel 3 XL are pretty much the same device. Just minor differences between the two. Screen size largely, and resolution and PPI. And of course, then, the notch. So that's why it didn't bother me. Because I'm like, I don't feel like that's their direction, that I need to embrace that. And if I don't, then I don't get the cutting edge device. So, that's one reason. Two, and let's see here. Oh, hang on. Sorry, wife was texting me again. That's the boss. This really came to light this morning. I was interacting with John Prosser before the launch, and he was suggesting that there would be an option. This wasn't announced during Google's presentation, if you will, yesterday, but there is, and this was seen all throughout Twitter today, an option in the developer mode, not developer mode. There's not a developer mode, but you have developer options in Android. You have to effectively toggle them on. They don't make it readily available for the average user, and rightfully so. But in developer options, you have the ability to turn off that area entirely, effectively moving everything down. So effectively eliminating the top area altogether, so you wouldn't be able to use it for time or status. The status bar would not exist up there. Basically, it's dead space. What that does effectively, just by toggling that, it's baked into developer options. By toggling that, it will make every Pixel 3 XL look like a Pixel 2 XL. That's what they're doing. So they did the thing that I wanted Apple to do. They allow you to turn it off and mitigate it in software. Problem solved. If you want the notch, great, you can use it. If you don't, but you want the Pixel 2 XL screen resolution, PPI, all that crap, you can just turn it off. It doesn't exist. Now you may say, well, what about the wasted pixels? Dude, you can't have it all. You have to decide what kind of experience you want. At least A, Google's giving you two very viable choices, and B, if you do want to take that leap, you can always turn it off. And you can turn it back on, if you're so inclined. I don't know why you would, but okay. But this has nothing to do with me hating on Apple and me loving Google. It has to do with Google giving you options. Google gives you the option to turn it off or keep it on, or go with a different device that's incredibly similar. Like in speed and specs and camera, similar. Like across the board. Apple didn't. Apple doesn't. Apple won't. And again, it's not about hating Apple. It isn't. And it's not necessarily saying that Google always makes the right decisions. I think they should have been a little more upfront about letting users toggle that on or off. But I think the average user doesn't care about it. I do, as I said, just to reiterate, obviously. And I think there are so many other great things that we could be covering today, but this seemed to be something that I needed to address, because it really agitates me when you don't listen. Seriously, because I know I do a lot of talking, but you need to listen to what I say. To what I said. I stand by it. If you can mitigate it in software, what's the problem? I don't have a problem. In fact, I said like everything was the Stocks app or something on iOS. I'm like, that actually looks good because it's a black background and you couldn't see the notch on the iPhone 10. That was last year. I'm like, that looks great. But it was software. So, I ain't backtracking. Still believe it. That has nothing to do with bias, apart from saying everybody's biased. And more to my point, I have to underscore this. This is not about me hating Apple. It's about me seeing Apple for what it is. And it ain't the Apple that you think you know. It's the Apple that is there today, and it's pretty much the Apple that Steve Jobs was not a part of before he came back. If you want to see something that was incredibly prescient in terms of where we are today, take a look at what Steve was saying about Apple when he was at Next. Listen closely. He's talking about today's Apple. It's very clear. It's so painful to listen to that. So, I don't complain because I feel the need to complain. I certainly don't do it for views. Although it's amazing to have new members like Cool Amazon 123. I want to see things improve. I say things because I hope they can improve for everybody. If it doesn't bother you, great. That's awesome. More power to you. You can do a video for yourself on your own channel. Say, it doesn't bother me. No one's stopping you. It bugs the hell out of me because it puts software second. Software should never come second. Software comes first. So, I know a lot of people have said that Google didn't really impress them with their Pixel 3s. They impressed me. Hey, if I get something that's snappier and the software experience is just as stellar, better, improved cameras and other niceties all around, I'm happy because 99% of my phone experience has nothing to do with its chassis. So I take this stance and talk about what Apple's doing, not because I hate Apple, but because I believe they need to do better. Because I believe you deserve better. Because I believe they're so lost in terms of what made Apple for a lot of people today. So, I just want to clear the air on those two things. A, I haven't changed my tune about the notch. If I went with the Pixel 3 XL, I would absolutely toggle that in developer options. There's also something that popped up in the XDA developer forums. Let's see if I can pull it up. It's called Nacho Notch. And this is something you can run on pretty much any Android device. I was running it here on my Pixel 2 XL. Let's go ahead in the Play Store. Yeah, Nacho Notch. It's a notch hider. It's free. And it effectively allows you to turn the notch off, but keep those status bar elements in place. So you can have the notch without turning it off in developer options, but also have those elements stay on top rather than being pushed down. So there's a free app alternative. It's not perfect. They need to update it so that the status bar icon is not visible all the time. You've got a way to turn it off in the developer options as well. It should be with software, or you can go with the Pixel 3. So there are options on the table. And I'm not going to say shame on Apple. I'm not, I knew that they would sell devices. They will continue to sell devices, but that doesn't mean they're best in class. They're not. I think Google has schooled Apple in terms of software quality control and design. Have they nailed everything? No, but what company has? It's not about hating Apple. I would love to want to have a product produced by Apple, like to make something that I would want. Who wouldn't? It's not about hate. So please stop spreading these vicious rumors. I don't hate Apple. And also, it's not me being silent for a reason about the notch. Honestly, the whole conversation's pedestrian at this point. Because if you can't think for yourself, I'm helping you along, right? But if you don't hear me say something, there's usually a reason for that, right? I just figured you could think, oh, look, that's an option, right? It wasn't that Chris didn't talk about it because he's protecting Google. Oh yeah, Google needs my help. Okay. Tech Corella, thank you for the super chat. He unfortunately is in a country that that doesn't have the member toggle. iOS 5+ years of updates, Android 18 months. I'm not sure what that means, but yes. Oh, you mean in terms of support for on the device? Yeah, I'm not sure. Honestly, I found that the Pixel 2 XL experience was by and large better than a lot of my device experiences over the past N years. Very happy with it. Very happy. Oh, sorry, I don't know. Oh, I must have cut it off. I apologize for that. Apple has become the new Microsoft, says Narbe Minasian. I apologize for really messing up your name. Yeah, they're just complacent. They had no competition, and quite honestly, I don't think they will because, people, these techies, they're in my estimation, they're concentrated on the wrong thing. They're talking about the hardware. I'm like, who cares? Show me the software. That's where a device will succeed or fail every single time. Every single time. Thank you for becoming a member, Burton 2006. Did you read the article about Apple being rotten after Steve Jobs' death? Yes, I did, Cool Amazon 123. It was actually about a former engineer who's now filing a lawsuit Apple is in as much disarray as I thought it was. It's painfully obvious. They don't have direction. I don't hate Apple. If Apple gave me a chance to come and work for them and to help keep an eye on quality control and make sure that these elements fall into place and it was a beautiful user experience, yeah, I'd take that job in a heartbeat. I think it's a lot more complex than that. But I would do it in a heartbeat. If it meant a better user experience, I'd do the same thing with Google, any platform. To make it a better user experience, it's everything to me. And trust me, Google's got a few problems. I just don't know who to talk to about. Like, this is a big issue. Like, that's a typo. Oh, this pixel's out of alignment. What's that bar doing here? Doesn't exist. Pixel 3 was confirmed 3 years of support. Project Treble on Android 1 has definitely improved software support and updates. It's true. I don't look at the Pixel 3 as an Android device. I look at it as a Pixel device. Because there's a lot of Android devices out there, and Android devices. I apologize. But I will tell you, I'm not interested in the bulk of them. Just not. I need one, and I want it to work well. And I will tell you, sitting here right now, seeing the same types of problems on iOS in the iPhone XS Max, in my very brief trial with it, I have zero reservations in recommending a Pixel device over an iPhone. Zero. It's not about Android versus iOS necessarily. It's not even about Apple versus Google. It's about a better overarching consumer experience. Doesn't mean Google's nailed it either. Trust me. They've got their fair share of problems, and Apple has other values that I talked about a year ago. Those have not changed. But in terms of a day-to-day, daily device, oh yeah, zero doubt in my mind. Zero. So, yeah, there we go. What's the member count today? Chirag Badkar, thank you, Chirag. Let's see here. I got to type it in. They don't make it easy. Let's see if I can pull it up here. We are at, I want to say 64 members. 65. I apologize. We're at now 65 members, which is great. Only 900 and some odd to go. I want to hit 1,000. I really do. So consider becoming a member, right? You obviously wanted to tune in to listen to what I was saying about this topic. Take the extra step. Become a member. If I'm not talking about the things you want me to talk about, become a member. Steer me the direction you want me to go. Really not that difficult to do. And it's very helpful. As I said, TLDR can only continue if we're able to find enough members to keep it going. So that's not a threat. It's just a truth. So thank you, everybody, for listening today. I appreciate you tuning in live, the 400 some odd people who did tune in live. Appreciate all the likes, even if you disagree. I know some people just dislike me because I exist, or because I'm reasonable, or because I actually back up what it is that I'm saying with facts. And I also want you to think for yourself. I don't always want to be leading you, I want you to also lead yourself and recognize that there are dramatic differences between these things. Doesn't mean someone's right or wrong, or something's good or bad. It's all going to be relative. But, when you're questioning what it is that I've laid down, and I've been very clear about that in the past, that's where I feel I needed to step up and speak up. I really don't want to talk about this again. Please, for the love of God and all that is holy, let's not talk about this ever again. Please. I've got far more important things that I'd like to talk about. Interesting things. Things that matter, right? I'm spent most of my night crafting documentation or assembling it for Creator Decks startup that I'm still in the process of spinning up. Like, it really, I don't know at what point it becomes official. I mean, yeah, the legal paperwork and everything, but like having a product done, software, a website, a web service for fellow creators, my peers, it's coming together. And it's coming together sooner rather than later. And I'm happy to see that happening. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate you tuning in and your support. Would I move to California? I don't think so. Apple has a place up here in Seattle, so I'd stay here. I'd walk down the street and like, hey, and they go, we know you. You are notch wanted here. Oh, yeah, I see what you did there. So, as I said, no immediate plans on having a Pixel 3 or Pixel 3 XL. I would like that to change. I don't know if it will change. I'm happy with my Pixel 2 XL. I don't collect smartphones. I don't really do videos on smartphones. I'm not interested in talking about the latest smartphones. It's like I have to explain this every day. Okay. So, I have to do some writing. I've got some blog posts. I've been writing little brief essays for not just my YouTube members here, patrons, people who subscribe to my newsletter. ChrisPirillo.com still exists. Redirects to where you can subscribe to that email newsletter. Some premium content for me, taking time to do that. And a couple other tasks related to the Creator Decks stuff. So I will see you tomorrow. I have no idea what the topic's going to be. Hopefully something hot and interesting and not notchy. I love you. I do. Even if we disagree. Even if you think I'm Chris Pirillo. It's true. I am Chris Pirillo. That's the name of this channel. I appreciate you. Even if you're only able to tune in and like videos or just know that I continue to exist and continue to do things beyond just creating content. At this point, however, I am going to leave you to your own devices, whether they happen to be notched or otherwise. May the Force be with you.